Okay, we're still introless, so bear with me. But I was thinking, what if this podcast was actually pretty helpful and not just not entertaining to anyone else? So I was reading the news last night, which I love to doom scroll in the middle of the night. I don't know if you guys do that, but I do. Makes for wonderful sleep. Actually, no. This is not the helpful part of this podcast. Does not help to doom scroll at night. You definitely shouldn't do that. Especially not when you wake up in the middle of the night. And you shouldn't have your phone in your room. In fact, I'm doing all of this wrong. So again, we're not at the helpful portion of this episode yet. So let's get to the helpful-ish portion. Last night I was doom scrolling and I came across an article about kiddos and babies and how many microplastics and estrogens and toxic chemicals and all kinds of weird stuff. And how many babies are born with that in their system, just born like that. And man, that's a heartbreaker. And I know so many moms who took such good care of themselves while they were pregnant to try to obviously give their babies the best chances genetically. And some for just survival, but also genetics-wise and chemical-wise and developmental-wise. They really, really took care of themselves to make sure that their babies were able to develop in a really healthy way. And man, it's just a heartbreaker to see a study like that come out and show. I think it was a cohort of like 10 pregnant women and then their babies. And they did blood tests on them when they were born, before vaccinations. And they just found loads and loads of toxins and chemicals and heavy metals. It was awful. And I'm not telling you this to like completely freak you out. Well, kind of, a little bit to freak you out. But you can think you're doing everything right. But so much of what we have in the world right now is just synthetic. And it's convenient. And it's so convenient. But gosh, it's so bad for us. And I went down the rabbit hole on seed oils and synthetic fabrics, sneaking up on 3 years ago now. And I did this huge pantry clean out, like a total psycho. And the kids absolutely hated my guts because I took away everything. And I just kept promising like, hey, the market's going to catch up with us. The market's going to catch up with us. And they're like, you're a crazy lady. And oh my God, we miss Oreos. But the amount of seed oils and preservatives and just artificial colors and flavors and all the things that our government allows and allowed into our food is horrific. And you have a lot of people who say like, oh, I ate peanut butter cups growing up. They're not the same thing. It's not the same thing anymore. They had like 6 ingredients 20 years ago, and now they have 60. And if you take a close look at these things, and I say this all the time, I guess because I say a lot of dumb stuff, but I want people to know that I am kind of smart. But I have a chemistry degree, and it's always been alarming when you look at nutrition labels or vaccine inserts. Go ahead and get mad at me. But you look at stuff and it's poison. You know it's poison. It's toxic. It's bad for us. We are not allowed to handle it without gloves, without safety measures in a lab. We're not allowed to. And we're supposed to put it in our bodies? Like directly inject it? Or ingest it? It just doesn't make sense. It does not compute. So I've always been a little bit of a psycho about this kind of stuff. And I promise the kids, like, the market's going to catch up. And the market's going to catch up. And I do. I think the market is catching up. And I'm super hopeful about that. I do think there's lots of products coming to market now specifically that are not fried in seed oils and are, employing things like beef tallow and duck fat and doing things that are just giving our body molecules that it recognizes as food and keeping us from having these leaky guts and a bazillion allergies. And I really got off on food here, and I did not mean to. The helpful part of this, not the overwhelming part. I was not going to overwhelm you today. That was the plan, not to overwhelm you and make you clean out your whole pantry and like freak out everybody in your house. But you can do this in an easier way. And you can start with something simple or more simple, like non-synthetic fabrics. And I think that makes a really big deal. And it's just a good place to start. My husband has really bad allergies, incredibly bad allergies, like sometimes life-threatening anaphylactic allergies. And it's weird because he's just kind of a physical specimen. Like he was a professional athlete. Phenomenal athleticism. Well, he wouldn't say phenomenal, but to the average Joe. And just a big guy, like imposing physically. He's really, really tall. But he's got bad skin. And his skin is really bad because according to doctors, he's allergic to everything. But you can't really be allergic to everything. Like, we wouldn't exist as people if there were people who were running around who were allergic to everything. And I used to work for a girl, and she's my friend, Lee. My friend Lee, I should call this podcast My Friend Lee. And she's fantastic, but she deep dived on all this stuff when it came to autoimmune things. And Daryl, my husband, definitely has autoimmune issues. So we're really careful about what he puts into his body. And I'm saying we, but we're not. We are not really careful. I am really careful about what he puts in his body. When he's on his own, he's going rogue and doing all the things. He's in a lot better shape when I have a little more control over what's going on. But we found a dermatologist locally, and most of them just send him for allergy testing and come back telling me he's allergic to everything. This new doctor, he's great. He didn't even recommend allergy testing at this point because we've done it a bazillion times. And by the time, and some of the doctors we've met with are like top doctors in the nation. But he's more old school. And he said like, hey, you're an athlete and you're a coach now and you wear tons of synthetic fabrics. Maybe stop doing that. And it was because we were finding out that my husband's own sweat was breaking him out. And so we started switching to more cotton fabrics, or 100% cotton fabrics in most cases. And we've seen a huge decrease in the amount of breakouts that he has when it comes to these allergic reactions that pop up on his skin. So I extrapolated that because my daughter is like his clone, and when she was having something that kind of looked like eczema, and so I switched her out of synthetic fabrics. So 99% of her clothes are 100% cotton. Now there's some stuff she has to wear for school or like uniforms like that are not, but what she's wearing on her body for 90% of the day, 99% of the time is cotton. It's way easier to do this for my son. I switched him out. Like girls, there's a lot of fast fashion stuff, and all of that is plastic of some sort, right? It contains weird like estrogens and pseudoestrogens, and there's a lot of science that backs all this up. I'm going to cite zero of it right now because, again, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go down the rabbit hole. But the point is, I'm trying not to overwhelm you, kind of. But one of the things that was hard initially in switching these fabrics over was how expensive they are. It is really expensive. Everything's expensive right now. But it is really expensive to buy 100% cotton and wool and to just find these pieces. So I highly, highly recommend thrifting for this. I found 2 shirts for my son the other day, and both of them were 100% cotton flannels. They were $4 a piece. And they're like name brand. One was Abercrombie, one was Woolrich. And you can find quality clothing in the thrift store that is actually not synthetic. And yes, there's a bunch of synthetic junk at the thrift. And I'm not telling you it's all fantastic. But if you kind of start to pay a little closer attention, you can save some money and you can put your kids or your highly allergic husband into natural fabrics for a fraction of the cost. And it really is a win-win. And this is a much easier swap than stealing everyone's food for a few months and letting their taste buds acclimate. They will like you a lot better. But if your kiddos have skin issues or you have skin issues, this is something that I think has been really helpful. So long story, not short at all, this is an easier swap than most of the other things that you're probably going to eventually want to do. So all natural fabrics. If you find that they're really expensive, you can thrift a lot of these things. And it'll help. I hope.